And now, the host of Quirks of Israel, Reverend Peter Fast.
Hey, how do you like my moves? How are you guys doing? How's everyone? Good to see you. Hey, good to see you too. Oh, so nice to be back here. Nice clean desk, hey? Okay. Looking forward to this episode. All right. Good to see everyone. Thank you. All right, well, welcome to episode 17 of the Quirks of Israel. Episode 17, all right. Today's episode is called Archaeology in Israel. Now, some could say Israel is one big archaeological site. From early Bronze Age to the Ottoman period, Israel is full of thousands of archaeological sites. Ancient villages, towns, cities, battle sites, trade routes, hidden treasures, and more. Israel hosts a plethora of tells, or archaeological mounds, where a city or town once dwelled. These are like above ground ruins, such as Crusader castles, Ottoman Turkish outposts, or British Mandate government buildings. So you have below and above. Indiana Jones would have loved Israel and still retain his phobia concerning snakes, as there's some pretty venomous vipers in different parts of the country. The land of Israel has seen war and sieges for over 4,000 years. From the early periods of the Canaanites, the Philistines, the Egyptians, the Hebrews, the Israelite united and then divided kingdoms, to the Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Jewish Maccabees, Romans, and Byzantines. Then you have the conquests of early to late Islamic caliphates, such as the Umayyad, the Abbasid, the Fatimid, the Seljuk, the Berbers, and the Mamluks. Say that really quick. You also have, during this period, the Crusaders and the Mongols. Then in 1517, the Ottoman Turks. Then the French, and finally the British in 1917. Each civilization brings culture, architecture, relics, art, mosaics, cisterns, practical implements like pottery, vessels, currency, agricultural equipment, religious artifacts, and more. Civilizations have come and gone, but one people have never left, the Jewish people. Despite all of history and the countless wars in the land down through the ages, the Jewish people have always had a presence. Whether sovereign rule or being ruled, Jews have dwelled in almost all parts of the land since the days of Joshua. In fact, no other people group have had their seat of government in the land and ruled as a sovereign independent nation and people other than the Jewish people. Check it out. You have many foreign rulers, but the land is always a distant outpost and the seat of government elsewhere. But all of these civilizations and layers of history have made Israel into a treasure trove of archaeology study and exploration since the 19th century, when modern archaeological methods were taking shape and you had European scholars, adventurers, ancient world linguists, professors, and people from the rich aristocratic class traveling to Mediterranean lands and Mesopotamia to dig, unearth artifacts, record history, showcase it in museums or the occasional estate or villa, or just commit the abominable sin of grave robbery and plundering. But what we can learn about history in the Bible is fascinating, and it's often right under our nose. I've had the pleasure of being on one archaeological dig with my wife on our honeymoon. You heard that right. We went on an archaeological dig on our honeymoon. We were on the outskirts of Jerusalem, digging at the site of Kibbutz Ramat Rachel. The dig, sponsored by the Hebrew University, was uncovering a summer palace of King Uzziah, whom we read about in the Bible, and it was amazing. To pull ancient oil lamps, jar handles, and other pottery right out of the earth was incredible. But you could also see past civilizations and how different peoples had come upon a destroyed structure, reused the stone, and built it into something else, such as what we witnessed digging through layers of early Islamic period or Byzantine and Roman. An incredible excavation that everyone must visit is happening right now in the city of David, where the original walls dating back to the Jebusite period have been unearthed, including sections from Nehemiah's time, and what major archaeologists and scholars believe to be the remnants of King David's palace. You also have intricate tunnel systems that have been uncovered starting from over a century ago, from Hezekiah's tunnel, which is recorded in 2 Kings 20 verse 20 and 2 Chronicles chapter 32 verse 30, which was a tunnel to divert fresh water from the Gihon spring and allow it to flow, in a sneaky way of course, into the city of Jerusalem in the face of the Assyrian siege. Thousands of tourists every year trek through the wet tunnel, and you can still see the chisel marks on the walls by the digging crews 2,700 years ago. There's also a dry tunnel that was dug during the Jebusite period and may have been used when Joab, David's general, captured the city. Then you have the Pool of Siloam, discovered not long ago while there were repairs being done to Jerusalem's waterworks. Hey, it's amazing. You get this stuff, okay. Or go north to Tel Hatzor. This is the famous Canaanite city that Joshua stormed and burnt to the ground. You can still see the ash layer in the destroyed ruins from that siege over 3,000 years ago. I have visited this site numerous times and have observed archaeological teams hailing from Heidelberg University in Germany, digging away, uncovering numerous artifacts and discoveries. The whole process is incredible, and I lived through it digging at Ramat Rachel. You wake up early, you eat breakfast, and then you walk to the site. You spend most of the day digging, filling buckets, pouring the dirt through sifting screens to catch anything you may have missed. The deeper you go, the slower the work progresses as the days are spent going back and forth from start, stop, start, stop. The experts inspect everything. They take notes, photograph, measure, discuss, analyze, and consult. When major things are found, all work is halted, and it can be hours before we resume. During the dig, anything deemed important, they're taken and they're cleaned, sometimes with brushes, small picks, or water, depending what it is. If something is ruled as unimportant, such as another pottery shard of thousands of pottery shards, then it is simply discarded. But find a pottery handle with a bula on it, which is like a seal with an inscription, or coins, or metal, glass, oil lamps, or many other valuable items that help with identifying date, culture, language, what people ate, how they lived, etc., then this is like gold. You find that stuff, that's like the best. In Jerusalem excavations, they have found Roman swords, vessels stashed with coins from the Jewish revolt, a gold pomegranate bell from a priestly garment, even a severed hand in the museum called the Burnt House, which demonstrates the grisly and horrifying destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans in the year 70. Or go to one of the greatest archaeological monuments of all time, Jericho, Masada, Bet Sha'an, Gamla, Caesarea, or Herodium. These are massive sites that take hours to digest and walk through. Bridges for Peace has a unique beginning related to this field of scholarly study and exploration, as Dr. G. Douglas Young, our founder, was one of the leading scholars in the world in ancient Semitic languages and participated in many digs with the famous Israeli archaeologists Yigal Yadin, as well as other notable archaeologists who have contributed majorly to this field of study in Israel. And these people have been like people such as Elliot Metzer, who discovered David's palace, or Ehud Netzer, who uncovered the tomb of King Herod at Herodium. You also have other notable archaeologists such as Kathleen Kenyon, Gabriel Barquet, Israel Finkelstein, and more. Now on the Temple Mount, there is a devastation happening. Actually, beneath it. Let me back up and explain some things first. The Temple Mount is the current site of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, which is an Islamic shrine. Originally, the Temple Mount was the extended plateau that Herod the Great built to refurbish and beautify the second Jewish temple and its courts. He made it magnificent and enormous. Rabbinic historical records say that Herod's temple was 18 stories high, built from white marble and stone, decorated with gold, and would shine in the sunlight for miles in all directions. The Jewish historian Josephus Flavius seems to confirm this, a massive monument and place of worship. Now, Herod's temple was expanded from the temple Zerubbabel built, that's another great name, during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah. Before that, the Babylonians had destroyed Solomon's temple in the year 586 CE, and Solomon's temple had stood for over 4 centuries. But under the ground was a subterranean system of chambers, tunnels, and rooms that were used by Jewish priests and Levites for centuries of temple worship, and all of this is being destroyed today by debris, earth, stone, and soil being removed without proper archaeological care under orders of the Islamic Waqf of the Temple Mount to expand and build larger mosques, but also in an effort to remove and eradicate any Jewish presence and history in the area. The debris is taken and dumped across the valley, but although this travesty continues, the Temple Mount Sifting Project entered the scene in 2004 to save the day, or at least save as much of the discarded history and artifacts as possible. Relying on volunteers, many of whom have been with Bridges for Peace, teams sift and dig through the debris to unearth amazing treasures and finds, many of which date back to the First Temple period, the days of Solomon. Israel is quirky, okay? Join me on episode 18 of the Quirks of Israel as I bring to you to ride a camel or not to ride a camel. That is the question. Cheers and shalom.